What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. As you can see, I am back in the studio. This is the season finale of season 4. I was gonna do season finale I was gonna do it yesterday, but then something came up, so I pushed it to today. And then the plan is for tomorrow. Is going to be the season 5. We're gonna kick off with season 5. Little announcement. I'm gonna do my final NFL power rankings, kind of to end the regular season, kind of wrapping the wild card weekend as well. May or may not have a guest. I'm still debating whether I'm just gonna do it myself or if I'm gonna bring somebody on. So we'll see. But I'll definitely be here for sure. Well, something comes up, but I don't know what could possibly come up. As long as there's no crazy weather or anything. I know if you're in the Northeast like me, we got some snow. So stay safe, be careful, but it's not too bad, thankfully. So let's get into Wild Card Weekend. We had the first round of the NFL playoffs this week. Start with the Houston Texans and Cleveland Browns. Texans absolutely blew them out, 45-14. CJ Stroud absolutely went off. He had 3 touchdowns in the game. Played absolutely phenomenal in his first ever playoff game. They do lose Noah Brown the game. So now their second best receiver with Tank Dell also out. He's out for the rest of the playoff. But, Joe Flacco struggled, 307-yard touchdown, and he had 2 pick sixes. Brown's defense kind of struggled in this game as well. Myles Garrett was very, very quiet in the game. Didn't really do anything to help the team. Defense, got picked apart by CJ Stroud. The 2 pick sixes by Flacco didn't help, so they didn't actually give up 45. Still, they gave up 31 points. Houston's got a pretty good offense. Stroud's should have been off with the rookie of the year. They can run the ball. Even tanked out. You got Nico Collins, who's had a phenomenal year. You had Noah Brown's pretty good. Dalton Schultz. So, no, you don't have a good offense. Bobby Slowick's done an excellent job calling the plays. He will most likely be a head coach probably in the next month or so, I'll say. I would not be surprised if he's a head coach somewhere else. And also, DeMichael Ryan might be coach of the year. I know I said a couple of weeks back it's got to be Kevin Stefanski. Now I'm kind of torn because Stefanski had a zillion injuries, 4 different quarterbacks, and still had 11 wins and made the playoffs. But DeMeco Ryans, in his first year as a head coach, took one of the youngest teams in the NFL and looked almost devoid of talent going into the year and took them to the playoffs, won his division, and won a playoff game. And you got some people saying they might beat the Ravens this upcoming. I don't know if that'll happen, but game picks will be either tomorrow or Thursday. Might just do the power rankings tomorrow, but I'm not sure. Actually, no, I'll probably do the game picks tomorrow. It's game picks Wednesday tomorrow. I can't skip out on that. So, Texans annihilate the Browns. Joe Flacco's little Cinderella run is over. At this point, he should just retire. At this point, he had a nice little Cinderella run. Show that he can still play, but he showed that he doesn't quite have it anymore. Back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, Joe Flacco was an excellent playoff quarterback. That's why I picked them to win. I thought, they're playing well. They got a great defense. They're a pretty complete team. They've fought through all the injuries all year. And Flacco is playing well. He's always been a great postseason quarterback. And Texans are early on. I thought he'd win this game, but didn't happen. Houston just destroyed them. But, first half was pretty close. Was back and forth with Houston winning. Close. They're up 24-14 at the half. It was 17-14 for a little while, and then the second half, they just pounded Cleveland. The other game on Saturday was Chiefs-Dolphins in extremely cold temperatures. Chiefs over the Dolphins 26-7. Mahomes threw for 252 and a touchdown. Rashee Rice, 8 catches for 130 and a score. Isaiah Pacheco went for 89 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Pacheco, he has a really weird running style. He runs really hard. I don't think he's on like a freaky pogo stick. It's weird. The Dolphins, I don't know what to say. They might be some of the biggest frauds I've ever seen in the history of the NFL. Tua, it's time. We can't do this every year with this guy. Like, I know he completed 70% of his passes. He had a well over 4,000 yards. He had 30 touchdowns. Didn't have a ton of turnovers, but team, they had one win against a team over 500. That was with Dallas Cowboys, and that's the next game on the docket. So, you know, I'll get into that in just a moment into the Dallas Cowboys, but that's not saying that the Cowboys are the only team they beat over 500. Like, I would be surprised if in the next 48 hours Mike McDaniel gets fired. I think he's a really good play caller, but I don't know if he's already head coach. His decision making isn't great. For example, a couple of weeks ago, you're getting show shocked by the Ravens. Pull your starters. He doesn't, and in Bradley Chubb, his best pass rusher, with 11 sacks on the year, gets hurt. And now that put them in a position to where they were going up against a really good Bills team that is very high octane on offense, and they couldn't get to Josh Allen. And then it put them in a spot where they have to go on the road in the freezing temperatures in Kansas City against Patrick Mahomes, and obviously they couldn't get enough pressure on the quarterback. Those are two guys. If you can't get pressure on them, they will pick you apart until you get pressure on them. Dolphins, something needs to change. Like, a lot of the pieces are there. That offense is incredible. They have the second highest scoring offense in the entire NFL. Tyreek Hill was arguably the best receiver in the league. He might win Offensive Player of the Year. J.O.I. was also a stud, but both of them are extremely fast, especially Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill would be the fastest player the league's ever seen. Waddle is also extremely fast. You have Raheem Mostert, who's an All-Pro, led the league in touchdowns. Devin A-Chain's a really good speed threat, a big play threat waiting to happen. You got other guys too. I mean, defensively, they had injuries. Didn't have Xavier Howard, number 2 corner, down the stretch, and obviously you lose Chubb at the end of the year. But for pretty much the whole year, you had a pretty good pass rush. Vic Fangio's a really good coordinator. Zach Slayer's the guy who stepped up in the front seven. Jalen Ramsey played really well after coming off IR. Javon Hines is another piece you have. There's no reason this team, and like, I know the Chiefs, obviously, you think, the Chiefs are the standard in the league. Patrick Mahomes is the league's best quarterback. You have, Hall of Fame coach Andy Reid, Travis Kelce. They have a good defense this year, defending champs. But they weren't that great this year. Their receiving core is absolutely terrible. Mahomes didn't even have his best year. The offensive line isn't great. The defense is the best side of the ball this year. The defense is actually very good. Offensively, outside of even Travis Kelce hasn't had his best year. He didn't have 1,000 yards for the first time in his career, or maybe not in his career, but he broke that consecutive season streak of 1,000 yards. I mean, if he had played the last game, he would have gotten it. He only needed 6 yards, but he had drop. His Chiefs had level big in drops. They had 40 drops as a team. That's almost unheard of. Dalvin just got absolutely slapped in the face. I did not expect them to win the game. Problem is, they've collapsed 2 years in a row. Last year, they were, at one point, they were 8-3. They were competing for the number 1 seed in the AFC. And they ended up almost losing out. And they barely made the playoffs. Of course, you lose to the Bills in the first round. Yes, that was, they're on the road. Had a third-string quarterback. If they had 2, they might have won. But then this year, you were at one point 3 games ahead of the Bills in the division, and then you lose 3 out of 5. You end up dropping into the wild card. So then instead of hosting a playoff game against a team that was barely even in the playoffs, they would have hosted the Pittsburgh Steelers. Probably would have won that game, and then from there you would have played who? Now you get to play the Chiefs at home instead of on the road. But instead, now you have to go on the road against the Chiefs in the first round. This collapse is even worse. It's one thing, they got blown up by the Ravens. That was embarrassing. The Ravens are also the best team in the league. Also, the Bills, okay. The Bills, they haven't lost in a month and a half. They're a good team. But that game to the Titans, where they had 2 touchdown lead in the last 4 minutes of the game, that's embarrassing. Something needs to change in Miami, because we can't do this every year with them. The Packers have a huge upset over the Dallas Cowboys 48-32. That guy for 403, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. He sat out at the end of the game, of course. He did not play well. Romeo Dobbs had 151 yards and a touchdown. How about them Cowboys? I told you guys. On paper, you look at this team, got that Packers defense is ran by Joe Barry, so he shouldn't have a job, the defensive coordinator. Matt LaFleur, I think, is overrated. There's no way the Packers even should be able to stop the Cowboys offense. Cowboys have an incredible offense. Drew Levin, his first career playoff game. I said coming in, I wasn't sold on him still. Dallas is at home. They've won 16 straight home games dating back to last year. 16 in a row. 16. Including 8-0 this year. They've averaged almost 40 points a game at home this year, and they're 8-0. There was no reason that this game shouldn't be even close. I told you, the Packers are going to win. Why? It's the Cowboys. What did I tell you? You can change the coach. You can change the quarterback. You can bring in new players. The result will always be the same. The Cowboys are cursed. Like, stop calling them America's team. Stop it. No one outside of Dallas, Texas likes the Cowboys. No one even can tolerate the Cowboys outside of the people who live in Dallas, Texas. Not one soul on this planet, or even in this solar system. Every year their fans hype themselves up. Like, every year they're overrated. Every year I could point to several things as to why this team wouldn't go past the first round. People try to tell me, oh no, this is the year, this is the year, this is the year. No, it's not. People were saying they're going to NFC Championship. I was saying, no, they are not. They were saying, oh, well, they're going to easily beat Green Bay, and they'll get the Eagles and the Bucs. They'll easily beat them. They're not going to beat the Packers. Also, Green Bay owns them in January. I don't care who their quarterback is. It's like, oh, well, you said Aaron Rodgers. I don't give a damn. It's the Cowboys. It's the Dallas Cowboys. But, like, can they fire about Mike McCarthy now? Can he leave? What? Why is he there? God, the play calling was horrible. He's not that good of a coach. He won 1 Super Bowl in 14 years or 13 years with Aaron Rodgers. Whoop-de-damn-do. And with this roster, which is really freaking good, 1 playoff win in 4 years in Dallas. And 3 pretty embarrassing losses. In the first one to San Francisco 2 years ago, Dak, did a quarterback draw of 14 seconds and no timeouts. Then last year in the second round against San Francisco, they needed a Hail Mary, and he ran a quick slam with Ezekiel Elliott at center. This year playing the lifeless Green Bay Packers, and they got shellacked. But like, Dan Quinn should not ever get a head coach interview ever again. He got 48 points to the Green Bay Packers. 48. Yikes. Can you even bring him back? No. I mean, they're going to make a head coaching change. From Seattle, I know it's a good fit, and Pete Carroll's still an advisor there. I'm not sure if I called him yet, but if they haven't, don't call him. If he calls you, hang up the phone. If you have, call him back and be like, Dan, you did a great job as defensive coordinator years ago. You're not going to be your head coach. I'm sorry. I just can't do it. I just can't. Lions squeak past the Rams 24-23. They beat Stafford in his return to Detroit. Stafford 3 for 367 and 2 touchdowns. Puka Nacua 9 catches for 181 and a touchdown. Obviously, a rookie record for most receiving yards in their first career playoff game. But Lions gave it done. Dan Campbell's speech after the game was incredible. Shouting at the GM Brad Holmes and then shouting out Jared Goff. Lions, here they are. They have arrived. For years of futility, they finally, I think, found the coach. Obviously, that's a very well coaching with Ben Johnson as the offensive coordinator, but he'll most likely be a head coach in a few weeks. And the defensive coordinator, Eric Glenn, maybe as well. He's much more likely to come back, but he could get a head coach job. If not, he'll be back. But Lions get past the Rams 24-23. So kudos to the Rams. That team really isn't that good. And kudos to Sean McVay. Yeah. He's one of the best coaches. He's a top 3 coach in the league. And he can very much, he's coming back next year. In the last couple of years, he's considered taking some time off and maybe going into broadcasting. But he has to say he'll be back. And the Rams are going to have a whole lot of money to spend. You know, they can continue adding some pieces, maybe on that defense and then off at the line. The Rams could be a scary team next year. And they finally have a first-round pick, which is another thing. Bills over the Steelers, 31-17. Not much of a surprise there. You know, Bills were up 21-0 at one point. Steelers crept back into it, got to 24-17 in the fourth quarter, and then the Bills got a late touchdown to kind of pull away. Mason Rudolph good for 229, two touchdowns in the pick. Bills stay hot, they move on, and the Bucs over the Eagles, 32-9. Baker's for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't know what to say about the Eagles. I'm gonna go more in depth about certain teams tomorrow when I do the final NFL power rankings. Why I'm not just going out there and completely ranting about some teams like the Eagles, even the Dolphins. I'm trying to hold some things back. The Eagles, they just quit. I think Nick Sirianni will get fired in the next 24 hours. I know he took him to the Super Bowl last year, but you can't bring that guy back. You can't sell out to your locker room. I don't think he'll have a job very soon. Hearing Bill Belichick might go to the Eagles. That'll be interesting. I'm hearing him in Dallas. Him and Jerry Jones. That will take about 8 minutes before those two just explode on each other. You know, Bill has always wanted power, and Jerry's not going to give it to him. If Bill asks for it, Jerry might just laugh in his face. Jerry might be like, he might start laughing, and Bill will be like, no, I'm serious. And he'll be like, oh, you're serious? I'm like, well, no. I'm not doing that. But we'll see what happens. That was Wild Card Weekend. Sets up the divisional round this upcoming weekend. Got some good games, especially in the AFC. Texans, Ravens, and Chiefs, Bills. Those are going to be 2 excellent games. So let's jump off NFL for a little bit. Let's start with the NBA standings now. Eastern Conference, you have the Boston Celtics, who are leading the conference at 31-9. They have not lost a game at home. They are 19-0 at home. That's crazy. And second, you have the Milwaukee Bucks. They are 28-12. For a slow start, for the most part, they've played really, really well. I know Giannis called out the whole team a week or two ago. They've struggled defensively this year. Obviously, they can score with anybody, obviously. You have Giannis, who's a superstar, obviously bringing in Damian Lillard. But they're giving up, on average, almost 120 points a game. So they have struggled defensively. That's something they're going to have to get in check. And third is the Philadelphia 76ers at 25-13. It's really tight in the East. You have Cleveland at 23-15. Miami at 24-16. You have Indiana at 23-17. Knicks also are 23-17. You have Orlando at 22-18. Chicago is at 19-23. And the Brooklyn Nets are at 16-20. They're the last playing team right now. You have Atlanta, who's actually tied with Brooklyn right now. I'm hearing they're going to be selling now, so they probably won't be in the race for long. You have Toronto, who's getting out of the plan. Then Charlotte, Washington, Detroit. The Pistons have won the basketball game. They beat the Washington Wizards, who are only have 3 more wins than them. So, I don't know. I'm trying to give them something to cheer about. I mean, it's not much for Pistons. They're still 436. Yikes. That's almost hard to do. In the West, yet the Minnesota Timberwolves are leading at 28-11. They've played really well this year. Oklahoma State 27-12. That young group of guys is playing some really good basketball. You have Denver at 28-13. They are in third. In fourth is the Clippers 25-14. They've been playing some really good basketball. Sacramento's in fifth, 23-16. Dallas at 24-17. You have New Orleans, the first playing team. They're actually same record as Dallas. You have Phoenix, the second playing team, 21-18. If Phoenix has Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker losing the play-in, that's one of the biggest failures ever. I'm just putting it out there. You have Utah at 22-20. You have the Lakers at 20-21. You have LeBron and Anthony Davis in your game under 500. That's terrible. That team needs to do something. Problem is they can't score. And they're also giving up 115 points a game. That doesn't help matters either. You have the Rockets at 19 and 20. You have Golden State 18 and 22. That team is just drowning. They gotta do something. I heard they're trying to trade. They want to keep Kuminga and Moses Moody. They're trying to trade Andrew Wiggins. Problem is, there's like no market for him. I mean, he's capable defender, capable scorer. He's a decent player, but he's got a lot of money on his contract. They're gonna have to attach something to get him out of there. You have Memphis at 15 25. They can't catch a break. Now Desmond Bane's out 6 weeks. He sprained his ankle. It's just one of those years for Memphis. You came in, coming off, a disappointing first-round exit last year. Still looked like you were a top 3 team in the West. You thought, all right, we'll hold the fort until Ja comes back and we'll be fine. And Ja hurt his shoulder. He ends up only playing 9 games. Steven Adams, your big man, and your veteran leader doesn't play the entire year. Brendan Clark's still recovering from a torn Achilles. He's one of your role players. That's important. Now Desmond Bane, who's, your really lone outside threat, is now out 6 weeks. Marcus Smart, who you trade for, you gave up a lot to fill in for. John Morant, no, he's out 6 weeks. It's just one of those years for the Memphis Grizzlies. Sometimes things just don't go your way in a season. Kind of reminded me of my New York Mets year. Just one of those years, Edwin Diaz, your best closer in the league, has a freak injury in the World Baseball Classic. Close from the season, and then, Scherzer been out some shoulder problems in the beginning of the year, and Marte was never really healthy, and just one thing after another. It was just one of those years. It's just one of those years for the Memphis Grizzlies. I just think it's not their year. Right now, they're 4.5 games out of the play-in, the third worst team in the Western Conference. It's just one of those years for them. And you have Portland at 10-29, and San Antonio Spurs 7-32. In some MLB Free Agency news, the Yankees signed Marcus Stroman 2 years, $37 million. I don't really understand. So, he's a pretty good pitcher. You look at his career, he had a good rookie year in 2014 in Toronto. He's been up and down. 2016 he was kind of okay at a 4.37, but a 3.09 of 13 wins in 2017. 2018 was horrible at a year over 5.5. He battled some injuries. But in 2019, between Toronto and the Mets, he had a good year. He had 3.22. He opted out in the pandemic year. In 21 with the Mets, he had probably his best year to date. In 33 starts, he had 3.02. He had 3.5 with the Cubs in 22, 2 years ago. But battled injuries, only had 25 starts. And last year in 25 starts, he had 3.95. Before the All-Star break, he was already the best pitcher in baseball, but then he got hurt, and he started struggling, and never really got together. He really struggled in the second half, ended up for 3.95. So Stroman's been on the record, coming after Yankee fans, and he's, got a big mouth. He's not really a well-liked guy. Obviously, the guy who he grew up on Long Island, so when he got traded to the Mets, his dream come true, and then, he Mets didn't want him back because he's just not as good as Max Scherzer, and then he started running his mouth. He's never stopped running his mouth. He hates Mets fans for no reason. Let me ask this: what's gonna happen when he gets shelved, and the Yankee fans start booing him, start saying this and that about him? The New York media starts grilling him, and he goes on social media and cries about it, and then people go after him. It's gonna be a disaster. Look, the Yankees needed another starter outside of Cole. Carlos Rodon was horrible last year. Missed a lot of time with injuries. Nestor Cortez, who 2 years ago was phenomenal. He struggled last year. ERA close to 5. He battled injuries. Clarkson was okay. There isn't really a whole lot there. Michael King would have probably been an option. You trade him to San Diego for Juan Soto. So, I don't, him slugging is like, if he was slugging as your third starter, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but he's a solid second or third starter, so him being number two starter, there's worse options out there. I think it's a terrible fit. I don't see this going very well. So he's inconsistent. One year he goes out there, he's really good, he's a borderline all-star, maybe he makes the all-star team. And next year he goes out there and he's really mediocre. Like I said, his rookie year, he had 3.65, and then he missed most of the next year. In 2016, he went out and hit a 4.37. And then he had a bounce back year, and then he struggled the next year. Then he had a strong year in 2019, and then he had a couple of strong years, and then last 2 years has been up and down. So for the most part, he's emerged like a solid a good third starter. You can survive him as a second starter if the rest of the rotation is strong. Also, behind him, they need Carlos Rodon to bounce back, Nestor Cortez to bounce back, and then Clark Schmidt to continue the momentum he had to end last year. So, I still think it's a good fit. Jordan Hicks also picked up a deal. 4 years, $44 million to the San Francisco Giants. If you look at Hicks, he had a really good year last year between St. Louis and Toronto. He had in 65 games, he had 3.29, he had 12 saves. Problem is the Giants are making him a starter. That's really confusing. I don't get it. He's a guy, in his first 2 years, he was very good as a reliever for St. Louis. In 2018, he had 3.59 in 73 games and 6 saves. In 2019, he missed a lot of time of injury, but when he was healthy, he pitched well. He opted out during 2020. 2021, he really struggled. Missed a lot of time of injury, only pitching 10 games, didn't look good. 2 years ago, they tried making him a star, didn't work. They put him back in the bullpen. He had injuries, and they finally put him back in the bullpen full time this year. He had a really good year. Of course, he goes to Toronto at the trade deadline. It was even better than when he was in St. Louis. I don't get why San Francisco was putting him in their rotation. I don't understand. Maybe it'll work out, but I don't get why he should be a starter. This guy came up, he was all this fireball, 100-mile-per-hour lockdown closer. He has Tommy John, midway through his second year. Took a while to get back to strength. Finally does, and they're putting him back on, and then they're making him a starter. I'm lost with this one. So, I don't mind them bringing him in. If they're bringing him to the bullpen to be a reliever, I think it would be a great deal. I think it would be a great move for the San Francisco Giants. And you look at the raw season, you're bringing Jung Ho Lee to lock down center field, and we see what he can do with the bat. And then you make the trade to get Robbie Ray, who you'll eventually have in the summertime. And you send out Anthony DeSclafani and Hanger. And then you bring in Jordan Hicks to help with your bullpen. It's not a bad offseason for the San Francisco Giants. Especially considering, recently, they tried to trade for Giancarlo Stanton a couple of years ago. They couldn't quite get him. They went after Aaron Judge. They thought they had him until they didn't. They had signed Correa, then that deal fell through because of the medicals. This would be a pretty good offseason, but I don't get why he's becoming a starter. I don't understand at all. Although, speaking of the San Francisco Giants, they're hiring Dusty Baker as a special assistant to the GM. Of course, he retired after a very long and what should be a Hall of Fame career as a manager. He's with the Houston Astros the last couple of years. Of course, he won a World Series 2 years ago. Lost in the ALCS to Texas this past season. Of course, Texas goes on to win the World Series. He managed San Francisco earlier in his career. Now he returns to that organization as a part of their front office. Here in the NBA draft now might be a 2-day event if the Players Association approve. Keep your eye out on that. And the Heat unveiled Dwayne Wade's going to be getting a statue in the fall. So that was very cool. Pat Riley to honor the greatest player in the history of the Miami Heat. So we have some players avoiding arbitration in baseball. First one is Pete Alonso. He got $20.5 million. I'm really interested in what people don't like Alonso. Put it this way, in a down year last year, he still had 46 home runs, 118 RBIs, and 821 OPS. Honestly, his batting average was down. He only hit 217. His on base was only 318, but he still had a 504 slugging. Still was an absolute beast. But I don't get why people don't like him. The dude's a stud. Going to last year of his contract, I wish the Mets would extend him. Also, I'm hearing they're not expected to not re-sign him, which is good. Juan Soto, he actually got a record $31 million in arbitration. That's crazy. $31 million in arbitration. Last year in San Diego, hit 275, a 410 on base, a 519 slugging, 35 homers, 109 RBIs, and a 930 OPS. The dude is a stud, obviously, straight to the Yankees. Devin Williams also avoided arbitration. He got $7.25 million. He's one of the best relievers in all of baseball. Of course, he was the closer from Milwaukee last year. 61 games. He had a 1.53 ERA, 36 saves, 87 strikeouts, and 58 and two-thirds innings, and a .92 WHIP. Had a phenomenal year. He's emerged as one of the 5 best relievers, at least, in the sport. Max Fried got $15 million. He's going to be a free agent. Last year, only made 14 starts, but had 2.55. He's emerged as one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. In the pandemic year, was 7 out of 2.25 and 11 starts. And in 21, he was 14-7 with a 3.04, and then he was 14-7 with a 2.48 in 2022. And last year, missed a lot of time of injury, but when he was healthy, he was a beast. He's one of the best pitchers in the entire league. I think very underrated. Shane Bieber, also avoided arbitration. He gets a little over $13 million from the Cleveland Guardians. Bit of a down year last year for Shane Bieber. He had a 3.8 ERA, only made 21 starts. He was hurt. Prior to that, obviously he had a breakout year in 2019. Won 15-8 with a 3.28. Then he won the Cy Young in the pandemic year. Had a 1.63 and 8-1 in 12 starts. And he only made 16 starts in 2021, but had 3.17. And 2 years ago, he had 1.13 of a 2.88 and 31 starts. So down year last year, but was still pretty good. But Cleveland avoids arbitration with him. All right, let's go over the college basketball top 25 that just came out. Obviously, I'll talk more about college basketball as it gets closer to the tournament in March. But these are the rankings going into this week. Purdue remains number 1. Zach Edey had a big game against Penn State Saturday, 30-20. So lucky Vince Purdue's not going to crap the bed in the first round, but they are number 1. They are number 1 right now. UConn is number 2. They're playing really well. Both are at 15-2. 3 is Kansas. Adding Hunter Dickinson has been huge for them. 4 is North Carolina, who's played really, really well. 5 is Tennessee. 6 is Houston. They've been slumping a little bit. They're still the 6th best team in the country. They've lost a couple games. Memphis is now 7th. 8th is Wisconsin. 9th is Arizona. Caleb Love has really helped them. Duke is 10th. Baylor is 11th. 12th is Auburn. 13th is Utah State. 14th is Kentucky. 15th is Oklahoma. 16th is Iowa State. 17th is Dayton. 18th is Ole Miss. San Diego State is 19th. 20th is Colorado State. 21st is Marquette. They've been struggling a bit, so they've dropped in recent weeks. Illinois is 22nd. Creighton is 23rd. Texas Tech is 24th. And then running out in the 25 spot is TCU. And by the way, a team that was almost ranked this year was St. John. So they're playing well this year under Rick Pitino. So I think they're going to make the tournament this year. So keep your eye out for them. All right, we have some coaching news. Obviously, Alabama named their next head coach. Kalen DeBoer from Washington. Look, DeBoer's a really good coach. He was coach of the year this year. Obviously took Washington to a national championship, but I don't know. Just so much pressure. It's not the same pressure he's had in the other spots he's been. Winning in Washington's a lot easier than winning in Alabama. In Alabama, you got to go out there and win 12 games. You got to be competing for national championships and winning national championships. So if in the next 4 years, if he's around 9, if he has like an 11-1 year, and the other 3 years he's like 9-3, 10-2, he might get fired. I think that's why a lot of these other candidates were hesitant. That's why Dan Lanning from Oregon, a guy who was probably the top candidate. He was a graduate assistant there. He coached under Kirby Smart, of course, at Georgia, who of course was under Saban for a very long time. That's why he, decided to stay in Oregon. That's why, Steve Sarkisian signed a extension through 2030 with the University of Texas. A guy who was an offensive corner under Saban at one point. That's why Mike Norvell at Florida State was a candidate for the job. He just signed an 8-year extension worth $10 million plus a year. A lot of these guys are like, why should I go now when, I'm going to, I could win 40 games over the next 4 years, but still not be good enough and get fired. Let me wait 3-4 years to, for Kalen DeBoer, just the pressure, just to crash under the pressure of, having to win 12 games every year. And then when it opens up in another 4 years, then I'll take the job. But, Washington's found their replacement. By the way, Ryan Graubler, the coordinator, followed DeBoer to Alabama. They hired Jedd Fisch from Arizona. He's next head coach of Washington. Fisch has been around a long time. He's actually an assistant in the NFL. He's been an offensive coordinator in the NFL for a little bit. I mean, he's definitely been around the block. He was the Rams a couple of years ago as an assistant. He was the Patriots quarterbacks coach in 2020, but since 21, he's been with Arizona. Those first 2 years with Arizona weren't great. First year he won one game, then he went 5-7, but was 10-3 this past year and won the Alamo Bowl. So an Arizona team that's football program that's been basically invisible for years. He won 10 games, and that's impressive. But Washington, they also have a lot of talent. Their starting quarterback, Michael Penix, is going into the draft. Their top running back is leaving. Roma Dunes, your top receiver, is going in the draft. You're using your number 2 receiver, your top 2 tight ends, and your left tackle. So, and your head coach and your offensive coordinator. So it's been a tough week for Washington, and it wasn't bad enough. They, of course, lost by 3 touchdowns in the national championship to Michigan, so that didn't help either. But Jedd Fisch jumps from Arizona to the University of Washington. Caleb Williams declared for the draft. I don't know what you want me to say about that. Cool. I think he's got bust written all over him. I think he'll be out of the league in 5 years. Just the character is just really, really concerning for me. Earlier today, Jason Kelce announced his retirement from the NFL. Congratulations to Jason Kelce. What a career. Played for like 13, 14 years, something like that. Super Bowl champion, one of the greatest talents of all time, one of the greatest leaders of all time. His Super Bowl parade speech will forever be legendary. What a career for him. The Commanders hired Adam Peters as their next GM, so Martin Mayhew is not expected to come back next year in any role. This is a great hire. He's maybe the top candidate out there. He's coming over from the 49ers. I think that's a great choice. Commanders are obviously making a lot of changes. He brought in Bob Myers and Rick Spielman to lead the search for their football operations and head coach search. And they got a GM now in Adam Peters. We'll see what they do at the head coach position. And before we close out, the New England Patriots named Gerard Mayer their next head coach. I'll put it to you this way. I'm a Jet fan. I hate the Patriots. I kind of like this hire just because, from a Jet fan perspective. And that's not a comment to the Patriots. This was a really quick decision to bring him in. They didn't even call Mike Vrabel. They didn't really call anybody else. I know, he was a great player there for a while. He was a very good linebacker there for a while. He's been their linebackers coach for a little while. He's been very involved with the defense the last couple of years. Apparently, he was expected to succeed Bill eventually. That was the guy. But this is a tough job for a first round. They're going into a full-on rebuild. They're going to draft a quarterback at the 3rd pick. They got to kind of build from the ground up. You have a little bit of a foundation, especially on defense. But this is a full-on rebuild still. This is a tough job for a first-timer. Also, Bill's coaching tree is so bad. Josh McDaniels, Matt Patricia, Eric Mangini, Charlie Weiss, Romeo Cornell. It's very, very bad. Flores was okay. I think he's a bit overrated. Clashed with everybody there. Never made the playoffs. Thought his team wasn't that great. There were some other things that weren't his fault. Don't give me Mike Vrabel. Does not count. He didn't coach under him. Only played for him. And so he doesn't count. So I'm not sure why Gerard Mayo is going to be any different. The only guy who's had any success is Brian Daboll. And now even he's starting to get... I even have questions about him. Not really even his coaching ability. It's just his overall. He seems like a jerk. I think the players aren't a fan of him. He's running coaches out of town. But Terrell Mayo is the next head coach of the New England Patriots. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long and have a great day. Patriots. All right, that's all I got for you guys today.